Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Love Change podcast. Today, we will be talking about feeling awkward versus being authentic. Um, this week, a lot of the content that I'm pushing is about being unique. And being unique has a dark side. And the dark side is that you feel like you don't fit in, that you're awkward, that you don't know if people accept you the way you are. And today we're going to talk about just that because we appreciate authenticity within people. Like if you look at your role model, they're like, yeah, they're like out there and they're doing it and they're being themselves. And then if you reflect on that, it's pretty difficult in trying to do it yourself. So join us on an open and honest conversation on the Love Change podcast.
Yeah, in this podcast, especially this topic today is very dear to us because the whole essence of this podcast to be authentic and speak from a place where we don't just show end results, but we really show up taboo free, raw, and real. And really don't make it look like it's easy. We really talk about the process of changing. And this is what we do. And we are live on Instagram and on Facebook Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. And other than that, you can decide if you want to see us with video or without, because we stream this podcast everywhere you would listen to your podcasts under the Love Change podcast. So here we go with the topic for today.
Feel welcome to drop a like or subscribe if the content we're creating is something that's of value to you. And if you have topics in mind for us to talk about, shame free, no taboos, drop it on us. We'd love to hear your ideas. Back to today's topic, feeling awkward. Um, let's just drop the hammer. When do you feel most awkward in your life?
I think, well, sometimes if you feel like you're really on a roll and you kind of feel like like you really live very taboo free and you don't follow what other people tell you, and something really stupid happens and then you kind of like get this splash on your face and you're like, okay, that was really awkward.
I don't get it. Please name an example because it's really vague for me.
I don't know if you kind of
It's about you, right?
yeah, it's about me.
Okay, drop us on an example, please. You're on a roll and then something stupid happens. And
I
then
don't know
you get
if you're
smacked.
like outside, listen to your music, super in your flow, and then you stumble and you fall, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this was super awkward. Like those small things,
But that is awkward.
that is
Like
awkward.
you're struggling
Yeah,
with walking.
yeah, but it also makes you feel awkward,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, not per se what I was looking for in the question because this is an
It's
awkward
not what we
situation.
do.
It's an awkward situation. And what about that is awkward to you? That you fall, that you stumble, or what?
Yeah, kind of
That
the.
people see it.
I think mostly in first place that people see it, yeah,
Mm.
and it's something that I'm learning to rephrase because I'm like, yeah, it can happen to anyone. It's also okay. Remember when I fell in the park when it was slippery, and then I go up immediately, and I was like, I'm fine.
But you felt
It's kind
awkward
of
in that moment?
yeah, I did absolutely.
It was super slippery. People were falling all
Yeah, I
around.
know. What would you? Well, then let's redirect the ball and ask you, where do you feel the most awkward?
I felt awkward quite a lot in my life because of being a foreigner, because looking different than other people, having a different accent. Dutch people telling me, "Oh, you speak very good Dutch," always makes me feel awkward.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Showing up on high school, super rich posh kids, us being in a social housing life, super feeling awkward about my clothes. Um, Awkward boners, I think, is a great example of
For
feeling
guys, for
awkward.
sure.
Um, yeah, I think many aspects for me feeling awkward had to do with not looking like I belong to the scene or part that I was in because I just had different music and lifestyle choices,
Mm-hmm.
and also not having the same train of thought. So
Mm.
if I think differently than other people, then I also sometimes feel awkward. And the stuff that you mentioned about falling or tripping, yeah, of course you feel stupid for a second, but I don't take those moments with me. Those don't stick with me. That's why I was a
It's
bit
not that they
surprised.
stick to me, but
Was surprised by your answer because for me that's not something that really has to do with being authentic or being unique. That's just a
no, we
blur.
started the conversation with awkwardness
Okay, okay.
without looking on the authentic side. I think, yeah, that's a
But if you
different
would
connection.
connect the question to that, like when do you feel awkward about being you? You know, it's not per
If,
se about what you're doing, it's about who you are.
yeah, then I would say connecting being awkward to being authentic is I don't feel that good if what I feel is not what I do or how I show up, then I feel awkward.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, if I'm like, yeah, if I look back at it now, living my corporate life, I felt awkward in my own skin, in my own body, because I was like, it doesn't really connect, it doesn't match my values in life, what I was doing. So,
Mm,
how I felt inside, I was pretty miserable and unhappy with this life, but I was still doing it because it was such a big,
and in which sense did you feel awkward then?
because I sometimes felt like I don't belong in that world. I think that was the most awkwardness in it.
Mm,
And that was really difficult to deal with because of course from for everyone outside of you it seems like the perfect life, perfect career, perfect everything, but I
mm.
was the one that didn't feel that didn't feel the vibe literally. And that for
But you
me,
felt like you couldn't be yourself or you weren't yourself? What was up?
I wasn't myself. My values that I have in life
Mm,
didn't match what I was doing. Like managing fashion collections doesn't make the world a better place. The only match that I could find was building a team and making people grow, managing people, giving people space to develop themselves.
mm,
That's the only portion I could find in it that was really matching my values.
mm,
Other than that, I felt awkward on all those parties and whatever meetings and events with like so much ego in the room, and people are like, yeah, but I want to be right. I don't care if this is good or bad. I want to be right.
mm,
I never understood it. I felt super awkward. So that's like but that for me connects in with authenticity. So if I look at those two together, then I'm like, these are the moments in my life where I felt awkward because I couldn't be my authentic self. But only feeling awkward is when I stumble. That's when I feel awkward
mm.
because I'm like, damn it, it's such a
Yeah, I think those silly moments everybody can relate to in
yeah,
some
but that's when
sense.
I feel super awkward.
Yeah, I think in some sense then you're also being awkward. Like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, you get even more awkward around being awkward, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this was so awkward, and you feel triple awkward.
mm, yeah, but I think the example you mentioned with your career, that it wasn't aligned with your values, I almost feel like it more has to do with feeling fake than feeling awkward. Like, I can imagine you showing up with your values in that atmosphere
Yeah.
and then you would feel awkward. But that's my experience. Like, I showed up everywhere where I went as myself. I spoke maybe the language or not, and I fit in the sense that I'm in the same room, but you could definitely be like, this person does not per se belong here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very obvious that I was an odd duck. But the way you
Mm-hmm.
describe it from the outside, you matched the prescription. Like you were wearing the clothes, talking the talk, living
No,
the
it wasn't.
life, or not.
No, actually not. That's the whole point. I was not fitting in the prototype of how that person should be.
Mm,
Like I'm super pragmatic when it comes to how I dress. It's like, you know me, I buy one sweater and three colors because the shape is nice, that's it.
Mm.
Super pragmatic wardrobe,
Mm.
which for those people is completely not understanding the whole thing. They're like, hey, you're surrounded with so much fashion, like you would really like enjoy the part of dressing up.
Mm.
Never did. Never did. And that's also where you like, I don't mind being the odd duck, that's why I always was. That part was okay for me. I felt like,
This in
damn
the
it.
back right here is our Love Change
Love
project.
change.
We're making our logo into a nice light banner. It's a work in progress.
It's a
like
work in
we-
progress, yeah. It's
like
a temporary
we,
solution.
I should have made a bet. I knew one piece would fall off.
The E is just
In
a
case you're listening and you're not
Uh.
watching, a little art construction is decomposing behind us. It's
Yeah.
showing the true value of change, that it's also creative destruction and innovation happening.
Yeah.
This is a moment you feel awkward.
Yeah,
It's a great example.
absolutely.
Yeah, I remember how
Yeah.
Kay was fighting this thing yesterday with all types of tape.
Yeah,
I was
and
like,
I thought I did
think
pretty
we
well.
need some more fundamental approach to make this thing work.
But now I have a good idea how to attach the E
For
later.
now on,
for next
I'm
time.
gonna intervene with your ideas about how to attach stuff.
Let me do.
But let's continue the conversation
Yeah.
on being authentic and being your unique self. What prevented you from living your life according to your values, the way you describe it?
Well, what prevented me from these two things, what prevented me from my values was that I could look back on a huge entourage of a career that I built up with title, salary, lifestyle, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't do that for nothing. I cannot just throw that in a bin. That would be just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So that part was like hanging on me. Not
So you were
allowing.
invested.
What do you mean?
You were invested in something. That's why
Yeah.
you were like, I'm too far deep in
Exactly.
to walk away from something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the like that made the playground super small for me to be really authentic. Like I could be authentic in how I dealt with people,
Mm.
etc., etc. But many things were just not possible. Like, you know, the lifestyle I live is pretty down to earth.
Mm.
More things decomposing. So I kind of like, I felt like I don't belong in this whole construct of that you need to have a border lifestyle, etc. I just really felt like fake money in it.
Mm.
So I can say.
But
And,
what I'm asking is what when you started this career,
yeah.
you every step of the way made the choice to not live according to your values, right?
I think I never spent enough time to really realize what my values are. I really did not. It kind of like it happened. And then I got excited about building a career and getting promoted more and more. And of course, the reflection that you get as success is something where you feel validated of going in the right direction. So that maybe made it difficult to be like, oh, actually, hold on. What are my values? Oh, this is not according to my values, you know? It's kind of, it felt a bit being lived in some sense. And of course, I made all the choices, but still, it's like I did not sit down and was like, what do I really want to do? I was like, career and a big lifestyle is the most important thing because that's something that, I don't know, I learned in some sense from my parents that it's important to earn enough money and, you know, work on that. And I was telling myself that what I'm doing is pretty amazing as a package because it looked amazing and all the feedback I got from people was it is amazing. So then you start telling yourself those lies, but you don't really, yeah, you kind of walk away far from what you really want, and then you're like, yeah, does that make sense?
No, I'm listening to. I feel like somehow you misconnected like success and happiness.
Yeah, like the importance of money was sitting above it all. So that was like the most important is money.
Mm.
And then the career and the validation and my success was kind of showing me that I'm heading in the right direction to come to a lot of money.
Mm.
So then my personal happiness kind of fell off the cliff in certain amounts because I was like,
Mm.
yeah, but you're doing great. Like, bottom line, you have the financial success with it. So you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I made the metaphor that a lot of people responded to as like um, pressing a ball underwater,
I love
and
that one.
you being that ball. If
Yeah.
you like things like, what am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I wearing? Can I go out like these? All these judgments that one can have about what's wrong with me in some sense prevent you from being your authentic self.
Mhm.
But you don't even think about these things. You're just being
Mhm.
you. While your trajectory towards money and success was over, yeah, overshadowing all the other parts of it, the way you described.
Yeah. Yeah, you say, I really love that metaphor, pressing the ball underwater. But for me, it's like two circuits, and one is who you are, and the second one's what you do. And if they kind of start to really deviate from each other,
Mm.
then you kind of stretch your personality in the wrong direction, very far
Yeah,
away
you
from who
have
you
to
are.
you have to push yourself underwater to
Yeah,
be in that space.
yeah.
I
But
think it's also pretty funny in your personal story. Like the moment you took a holiday, you went and got 18 tattoos or something.
yeah,
Those are
but
also
that
like,
was not in the middle. That was towards the end.
yeah, I know.
That
In
was
the
like
end,
breaking up with everything and just like
yeah.
it's built up for such a long time that in that moment it just imploded. When I
Mm.
came back, also my manager, he said, yeah, it feels like something short circuited in your head. I
Mm.
was a different person when I came back, and it's very true.
Mm.
So kind of like, yeah, I can press
Yeah,
myself
while
underwater.
in reality you were starting to be your authentic self.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, it's also not easy in that moment to acknowledge that for yourself and be like,
And
yo,
what's hard
actually,
about it?
yeah, because you become more and more different from everyone else. So
Mm.
I always felt different, but then like I obviously become even more different.
Mm.
And then you feel like an alien in that sense,
Mm.
Like yeah, it's just like, I don't know, sometimes it feels like a former life. It doesn't really feel like it was me doing that for so many years, but of course you can believe your own lies once you start telling them to yourself.
What do you mean?
Yeah, to be like, yeah, well, actually it's an amazing lifestyle, and oh my gosh, you're so blessed, you're so successful,
Mm.
you're doing great, and very
But
shiny,
you are. It's
glossy
not
magazine.
like those things were not true.
What, being happy?
No, none of it was about being happy.
Yeah,
It was about success and a
yeah.
nice life and a big house. But like, it's not like those things guarantee happiness.
No, that's the whole point. Like when my burnout kicked in, I was watching the movie The Minimalist, and those guys were also, they both had a huge career, and they were like, yeah, every time I got a rise for my salary or I bought something new, I was like, oh, that must make me happy. And then I realized, no, but then you think happiness is just around the corner.
Mm.
So you're gonna get to the next promotion, you're gonna get to the next bigger thing that you own or whatever. You're gonna think this is gonna make you happy. And like since I watched that, like really something completely changed in me. I was like, I cannot be the same human anymore, because this is so true. If you're not like happy in your smallest sense, in your smallest essence of who you are, then no things will make you happy.
Mm.
And that's when my whole journey started to, yeah, to really change my trajectory and decide that whatever is gonna come, I have no idea, but better things are ahead, because they're gonna be always screened for the fact if they are true to myself.
Mm. No, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Powerful stuff.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for asking those questions. Where do you feel where do you feel the most authentic to yourself, and what was the journey to get there?
I think I've always been pretty authentic to myself.
Mm-hmm.
think it also has to do with the way I was raised. Like my mom always told us to mingle with everybody, but to remain ourselves
That's a nice one.
and not to get pulled into different people's. Like it really shows you the value of observing and learning the pros and cons of every way of living.
Yeah.
I think my biggest fracture in how authentic I felt or was or not definitely came with my accident because I had to rebuild my identity in some sense and also embrace my vulnerability. I think in life I wasn't authentic on a vulnerable level and an emotional level. I think those are things that I'm growing towards and in, which are great, which are valuable, which are powerful, which are new, which are things I never saw other people do. So it's really a discovery journey for myself as well.
So other people do like in your family environment or
Yeah, how you deal with um emotions, how you deal with pain, how you deal with the tough parts of life. Like I'm just shown to toughen up and buckle down and keep going, and that's super helpful. Like it made me very resilient. But for me to acknowledge that I have pain makes me feel very awkward. For me to acknowledge that I am tired makes me feel very awkward. Like the, the awkwardness for me was something that in some sense I was used to being a foreigner and an outsider. And I built my persona around that and I was doing my thing. But after my accident, I truly realized like how much of that was not true because I was physically an insider. So as a handicapped person, you definitely experience the awkwardness of showing up somewhere and people not knowing how to deal with you, or people talking to people who are with me as if I cannot talk, or like
yeah, it's even like not your awkwardness, but the people's awkwardness, how to deal with that.
yeah, all of that gets included in my experience. So for me to deal with that on an authentic level, yeah, it's been a journey from being very understanding to sometimes being short fused and just being me. Like I feel like I'm in a place in my life where I can really be unapologetically myself because I know I'm true to myself, so I don't need to apologize. And yeah, I think in some sense, then you also feel good about feeling awkward. You can know that that's a strength, and like, who cares about fitting in?
Yeah, like that.
And I do care about fitting in the sense that I don't want to upset anybody. But I don't care as much about fitting in that I would upset myself for it. You know?
Yeah, that's a beautiful
So
one.
if I'm not vibing with the people or the situation or what's being said, then I just express that or decide to leave the crowd. And yeah, I guess think that's also like between us. I see a lot of times like if I feel like you're not being your authentic self, then I also really struggle to watch that. Like I really need to surround myself with people who are also invested in being their real self and not fight that because of some misunderstanding about what you're supposed to be or what is expected from you, you know? So in that sense, I'm also on a deep quest to really do more of that. I think like being authentic has to do with knowing your boundaries and communicating them.
Yeah, I agree.
Being authentic has to do with if you feel fucking awesome and your partner's feeling fucking horrible, that's okay.
Mm.
Like, it's not like you need to be on everybody's wavelength.
Mm.
You need to be okay with being in your own bubble. And sometimes you affect people in a good way, sometimes it rubs people against the hair.
Yeah.
That's part of, I think, being authentic, is that you
Mm.
truly follow your intuition in that sense and you're guided by that. And I think a lot of times I have tried to be guided by external signals, while what I'm learning more and more is that, like, the authenticity is something that comes from within,
Mm.
and that intuition
Yeah.
also is all about resonating with what's going on inside of you. So really knowing what's your stuff and what's other people's stuff, and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes somebody else is being awkward and they make you feel awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not you,
Yeah.
you know. So those things are definitely part of my journey, to be like, hey, you're being weird. Good for you. Not my cup of tea. Not right now.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a very authentic thing to say.
Yeah. It is definitely a very authentic thing to say, but also
Me dealing with this microphone right here.
yeah, I
was
get
authentic.
that. But also doesn't necessarily always lands well, at least between us. So
And that's the thing. I don't think authentic people
for me,
are.
the sorry to interrupt, but the line that we cross here is also a certain sense of empathy. But I get where you're coming from. It just doesn't sound like that, because it's like it's a bit shrugging it off of someone else's, and it's like, yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I don't know, but that's how I
I
feel
hear
about
you.
it.
I hear
Yeah.
you. I think it's definitely like, I'm not sure if a very authentic person is always as empathetic. You know,
That's your point of view.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can be empathetic if you feel like being empathetic, and if you don't feel like being empathetic, you shouldn't do it because that is what is asked of you. You should do it because you feel like it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is being authentic.
Yeah.
You know,
Interesting perspective.
otherwise you're being empathetic, because otherwise you would be perceived as awkward. You know, like, why
Yeah.
is this person so lacking empathy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult one to grasp, but I get where you're coming
I think there is no truth in it in some sense, but for me, I think this is where the edge is of, when are you giving too much, or when are you still taking care of yourself?
from. Yeah. How
When
do
are
you, I
you
think,
being dependent, codependent? When are you being independent? Like, all these things have to do with each other.
yeah, for sure. How do you, that question came up a while ago, but how do you recognize for yourself that you are not authentic to yourself?
For me, it sits really in my skin. I really notice it in my body.
Okay, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, for me to be not authentic definitely resonates
I think it's
physically.
just okay if it stays.
I'm just gonna keep playing with that.
Okay.
Like, I think, yeah, for me, when I'm not being authentic, like a lot of times with you, with other people, I show up and say stuff that makes me the bad guy. Like, I say the things
Yeah,
that
that's what I meant.
if I don't, it just sits inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to gossip.
Yeah, you
So
got a
I
good
don't.
repellent quality on you when it comes
Yeah,
to
I
that.
don't. Like, I also, if I'm in the presence of other people gossiping, I tell them, pick up the phone, make a phone call, tell the person who's concerning, or shut up.
Yeah.
Like, three people shouldn't be talking about the fourth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And those things, I don't know where they come from, how they came to be. I've even caught myself telling it to my mom when she's upset about my dad, who's her ex. I'm like, hey, got something to say to the man. You got his number, you know his address. Show up to his door and tell him.
Yeah.
Why are you telling me? And I think for me that is definitely the baseline of my authenticity is in that sense. I don't keep secrets from people. If I have an
Mm.
opinion about you, you're gonna know from me.
Yeah.
And if you're doing something that I think most of the time that's the reason why I say things is because I care about people.
Mm.
So when I show up and I say something that's not really awesome to listen to,
Mm.
is because I think nobody else will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And you yourself might even spit me in the face, be like, what are you saying is bullshit. Because you yourself struggling with acknowledging that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter to me as long as it is really out of my system, then I'm authentic regarding other people and regarding to myself being authentic. Yeah, I also like just as much as I have conversations with other people, I think I have way more with myself
Mm-hmm.
about being real to myself, about not telling myself lies, and still I've told myself lies, and they all had to do with me denying my own vulnerability in some sense. So I've come a
Mm-hmm.
long way regarding to that.
Yeah, I really love that. I take that also out of today to, yeah, the way you describe showing up authentic and staying true to yourself, not necessarily making friends with the things you say, not pleasing people. I think that's a beautiful quality. Like what we have our as our baseline of our relationship to be like there is no bad intention. That's actually the core of that as well. There is no bad intention. You're like, I don't want you to gossip around someone else. Just tell those people in their face.
Mm.
Or yeah, I don't like this, I don't like that. It doesn't necessarily make you friends in that moment, but
Mm.
it is standing up for yourself, and it is also showing boundaries in that sense. So I think
How
that's
about you? How do you know when you're being authentic?
um it just feels honest, it feels real. There is not this weird feeling in my stomach.
Or you feel it in your stomach?
Yeah, I do feel it in my stomach, somewhere between my solar plexus and stomach. That's like my part, if you think something, you get a question asked, and you think something but you say something else, and you're like, no, it's actually not a good idea. I really feel it in that. Sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker. So sometimes you really need to take a moment to also not react but respond. Be like, is that really true to myself? Is that something I can deliver? Is that something I can do?
What is currently the toughest act of authenticity for you, or like where do you feel the most awkward still?
I think yeah, kind of building a sustainable business and building a sustainable life in that sense. Doing something that I really care about, and finding a balance in how much I work, and if I feel bad, sick, whatever, to allow myself to not work, so not fall into this 24/7 work situation.
Mm.
I think that's something that is not easy for me, because
You
yeah, in
feel
some
awkward when
sense,
you do it? What do you mean?
yeah, I feel awkward if I'm like, it's not really according to my values. If you build a sustainable business, you should be the sustainability ambassador for that, and show like you are for energy. Like, energy management is like you are the energy management ambassador, to show up and really allow yourself to rest or recharge in a certain energy
Mm.
dimension. And for me, it's the sense of sustainability, also the healthy lifestyle, rest and recovery, to acknowledge that, because that's something, if you love what you do, that's even more difficult to be like,
Mm.
hey, yeah, today I feel off, and I should rest. But actually, I wanted to do those 15 things because I really love to have them, and everything can be done yesterday, ideally. But that's the whole point. Like, that's not how it works, And yeah, how many
But this
times?
is mostly feeling awkward with yourself.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, but also feeling awkward in showing up like that. If I'm not rested well, I'm not gonna be my best self. Like if I'm having a huge headache like I had today, I'm also not going to be my best self. And that's something I also wrote in my journal. I'm like, I have days like this and I'm not going to be my best self. And that's also okay. It's a part to forgive yourself and just allow that. And I would like to react differently. I would like to respond differently. But how I feel just doesn't allow me to access this full spectrum of qualities that I like to use in any type of conversations. No, sometimes you just tap in the wrong box. And that's also part of it. And I think this is also, yeah, the part to learn to be human in some sense, that's something that making mistakes and using the wrong tone and responding off, that is also part that for me is yeah, it's a big learning journey in that sense.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, but to, yeah, to not to, like to either not to make it look as it is perfect or try to find the perfect response, but just be like, I don't know, like, yeah, also like, I don't know, if you would ask me probably today how I would summarize the podcast, I'd be like, don't have the headspace to do it, usually I would not allow myself to respond that. But that thought came earlier and I was like, yeah, if you ask me at the end, probably don't have the
I know what I'm gonna ask you at the end.
Yeah, you can definitely, but I also allow myself.
If I hear you is to feel okay with your imperfections.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But that is authenticity also, like being Mrs. Perfect for so many years and to allow to not be perfect and also just allow myself to rest, to just really feel miserable because of what happened yesterday and etc etc, just like that's okay. That's like, if I compare yesterday with my past experience, I would just shrug things off and I'd be like, okay, move on, fine, no emotions, like literally no emotions. And this morning I woke up and I was like, that's humane to feel shit. That is part, and that's okay, and you can allow and acknowledge that, because the difference how you feel is showing you that you are a full human being and you're really living up to your beliefs, your purpose, your authenticity. So if you make a mistake and you feel like shit for a day, that's okay. But in the past, I'd be just like, no, 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 it's fine.
Yeah, regarding to that, big shout out to Itzel, our intern, who we let down by not being prepared enough to give her a clear prospect of what she's expecting. I think she deserves to be mentioned. All the nice visualizations and great ideas that you see in our content wouldn't be there with her level of energy and professionalism.
Creativity, spark, fuego. Can mention 15 other things.
Super joyful person to work with, and somebody we would have loved to keep on board, but right now aren't in the position to offer to keep her. So it sucked for us to acknowledge that, and it sucked for her also, and we also failed to like communicate that on time regarding to what you feel bad about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have secrets like that in that sense. And
no, but that's what I was carrying. So yeah, but to see that difference also, and really, I mean, the other situation that I had is like 5 years ago or something, or 4 years ago, and I really see a full different human behavior around that, and that's really powerful. And all the pain and stiffness in my body, etc., it's part of it. But then it's also okay to allow it, because I think that's also authentic, to feel shit about it and be like, yeah, I actually made a mistake. That's how it shows also in my body. So yeah, that is my authenticity journey.
Nope. Pretty dope. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
No more questions?
I don't have any. Do you have any?
I'm done. Should I summarize, or you want to summarize today?
Would you be so kind and summarize?
Kay loves to summarize, but I'm going to do today.
I love to summarize, not tonight.
So, if you ever feel awkward about any part of yourself, um, that's good. Celebrate it, because it's better to feel awkward and be yourself than to not feel awkward and not be yourself. I think on the path towards authenticity, we assume that people who we consider authentic, that they don't feel awkward, that they don't have doubts, that they don't have insecurities.
I feel almost the awkwardness is a validation of being authentic. That's the best way I would phrase it.
Yeah, I think, like, if it's just a feeling, like, you can do two things with it. You can feel awkward and then make the choice to be different than what you feel,
Mm-hmm.
or you can feel awkward and do the thing. Like, if you feel awkward and do your thing, then it's good. It's a validation. If you feel awkward and you decide to change your behavior to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't think it's what you say. So it's a segue point. Whenever you feel awkward,
Yeah.
you have the option to stick with that feeling and move forward and be proud of yourself, or to almost shy away from an opportunity to be your authentic self. And I hope our conversation here encouraged you to, every time that you can, make the choice to feel awkward and be your authentic self, because on the long term, that compounds into a happy human being.
Yeah, aligned human being.
Yeah, and that makes us happy, that makes you happy, that makes the world happy.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in. Every Tuesday, 7:30, the Love Change podcast. Drop us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, rate it on your iTunes provider or your podcast provider, whatever it's called.
Probably that, yeah.
We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, love change, love life.
Love change out.